If you had stood in a small forgotten corner of the Nevada desert on the morning of September 12, 1883, you might have seen something impossible. A city, complete with buildings, church bells, and horse-drawn wagons, shimmering under the rising sun. By noon, it would disappear. No maps recorded it, no government documents mentioned it, no railroad surveyors reported it, yet hundreds of eyewitnesses swore it existed. This is the story of Silver Plains, the American city that appeared, vanished, and left behind a trail of mysteries historians still argue about today. A story woven from newspaper reports, diaries, mining ledgers, railroad archives, and the memories of the few who survived its strange fate. And to understand why this city matters, we must begin long before the day it vanished.
The Nevada desert is a land shaped by silence. Its cracked earth stretches endlessly, marked only by the shadows of distant mountains, far-off dust devils, and the whisper of long-abandoned mining dreams. Most travelers who cross it today think only of its emptiness. But the desert remembers. And sometimes, if you listen carefully, it tells stories. One such story begins in the winter of 1859, during the feverish rise of the Comstock lode. The silver strike that transformed Nevada from a barren wilderness into a roaring engine of ambition. Miners, gamblers, engineers, shopkeepers, washed-out Civil War soldiers, failed farmers from Missouri, Chinese railroad workers escaping violence in California, and hopeful families from the East Coast all converged on the region. They brought with them dreams and desperation in equal measure. Among them was a soft-spoken Pennsylvanian engineer named Nathaniel Hale. Nathaniel was not the type of man one would expect to shape history. He was quiet, slender, and preferred his books and surveying instruments to the rowdy saloons of Virginia City. But beneath his calm exterior was a sharp and restless intellect. He believed the desert hid secrets, geological patterns, mineral veins, underground water channels, that could change the fate of any community brave enough to study them. In early 1863, working alone and far from the larger camps, Nathaniel discovered something unusual. A series of underground caverns where the desert floor dipped gently into what seemed like a natural basin. At first, he thought little of it. Nevada was filled with such oddities. But then he found a curious rock formation, a vein of silver so pure it glistened even in moonlight. He returned to Virginia City with samples. The assayers were stunned. "The purest we've ever seen," one reportedly muttered. News spread quickly. Investors arrived. And within months, a small mining settlement formed around Nathaniel's discovery. They called it Silver Plains. Silver Plains was unlike the rowdy mining towns of the era. It had no chaotic cluster of saloons spilling drunken miners into the streets. Instead, under Nathaniel's influence, it developed with a sense of order. Streets were mapped carefully. Buildings followed a grid. Wells were dug with scientific precision. Even the local leadership was chosen by vote, unusual for mining camps dominated by whoever shouted the loudest. By 1867, Silver Plains had grown surprisingly fast. Not a boomtown, but a thoughtful, deliberate community. People who were tired of the chaos of the West found refuge there. School teachers, widows, craftsmen, and immigrants looking for peace-built homes. Some railroad surveyors even speculated that Silver Plains might become a reliable stop on future lines, since it sat between two of the most promising routes. But the heart of the town was not its people, it was the mine. The Silver Plains mine became legendary. It delivered steady yields, not massive strikes like the Comstock, but enough to keep the town prosperous and stable. Nathaniel, though offered immense wealth, refused ownership. Instead, he served as the settlement's chief engineer. "The land provides," he often said, "and we must treat it with respect." Yet not everyone shared his philosophy. In the fall of 1871, a railroad baron named Charles Wentworth arrived. Wentworth was a towering figure, both physically and politically. His empire stretched across multiple states, his money touched newspapers, his influence reached Congress. When he heard about Silver Plains and its architecturally sound layout, he saw opportunity. "Your town," he told Nathaniel during their first meeting, "sits on the future of the West. With the right investment, this could become a major junction. The heart of trade. A gateway. Nathaniel listened politely. He admired the railroads. They were, after all, the arteries of America's growth. But he sensed something dangerous behind Wentworth's offer. The Baron didn't just want a railroad stop. He wanted control. When Nathaniel refused to sell the mining rights and denied Wentworth's proposal to flood the area with industrial operations, Wentworth was not pleased. "You stand in the way of progress," he warned. "And you stand in the way of the people who live here," Nathaniel replied calmly. Their conflict simmered quietly but intensely. Life in Silver Plains continued peacefully for several more years. Children grew up playing near the wells. Traders arrived regularly. Even small scientific groups from San Francisco visited to study the unique geology. The town's diaries and newspapers describe a community that felt hopeful and stable, a rare achievement in the American West. But under the surface, both metaphorically and literally, pressure was building. It began with strange tremors. At first they seemed insignificant, the sort of mild shaking miners sometimes experienced deep underground. But the tremors grew stronger in 1878. Nathaniel noticed subtle cracks forming in the support beams. Certain tunnels shifted slightly. Instruments he used for surveying gave warped readings. He warned the town council. "The basin under us is changing," he said. "There is movement beneath the desert floor." Some took him seriously. Others thought he was simply being cautious. Then, on a hot July afternoon, dust plumes erupted from the eastern ridge. Not from drilling, but from the earth itself. Miners reported hearing hollow sounds beneath them. One wrote in his diary, "It felt like the ground was breathing." Nathaniel made a profound discovery that summer. Hidden beneath Silver Plains was a massive, ancient cavern system. Geological evidence suggested the basin wasn't stable. Water channels formed thousands of years ago had slowly eroded the rock. The weight of the town and the mining operations was pushing the system toward collapse. He urged the council to temporarily halt mining and begin stabilizing the tunnels. "This is not a matter of productivity," he insisted. "It is a matter of survival." Some listened, others did not. And then Wentworth returned. By early 1879, Wentworth had secured new investors, Eastern bankers hungry for Western riches. He arrived in Silver Plains with a proposition: expand the mine massively with industrial equipment and deeper shafts. "This town could become the next Reno, the next Denver," he declared. But Nathaniel refused again. "It will destroy the basin," he warned. Wentworth countered, "This basin is the key to wealth." Their rivalry escalated until it threatened to tear the town apart. Meanwhile, nature continued its silent work below. The collapse began slowly. By 1881, streets in the eastern quarter developed subtle dips. Some buildings leaned almost imperceptibly. Carts rolled oddly downhill. Water wells fluctuated unpredictably. A few homes were relocated. Families debated leaving. But the stability of the mine's income kept most people hopeful. Nathaniel kept detailed records. His notebooks, preserved later in the archives of the Nevada Historical Society, describe his fear in precise handwriting. "The ground is thinning. I can feel it. Every tremor is a warning. The desert is patient, but not eternal." He predicted that the town had 4 to 5 years left before something catastrophic happened. He was nearly exact. The final months of Silver Plains were both its most prosperous and its most tragic. In early 1883, a new silver pocket was found. Investors poured more money into the mine. Wentworth arrived with machines and workers, determined to extract as much ore as possible. Many residents, exhausted by years of warnings, believed this was their chance for a future free from fear and poverty. Nathaniel tried to stop them. He begged the council to evacuate. He wrote letters to the Nevada territorial government. He sent warnings to newspapers. Few listened. "Doomsday engineer," some called him. Even his closest friends sometimes questioned him. The mine had held for decades. Why collapse now? But below their feet, the caverns had reached their breaking point. On the night of September 11, 1883, Nathaniel felt a tremor unlike any before. A long, groaning quake that seemed to stretch across the entire basin. He rushed outside. The stars vibrated in the well water. Dogs barked frantically. Horses refused to enter the stables. He went door to door urging families to gather on the western ridge at sunrise. "Please," he pleaded, "just come. If I am wrong, you lose nothing." About 100 people agreed. The rest stayed behind. Sunrise, September 12, 1883. What happened next is the reason Silver Plains became a legend. Witnesses on the ridge said the first sign was a deep, thunder-like sound, but not from the sky. Came from beneath the town. Some described it as a metallic roar, others as the sound of a giant exhaling. Then the ground began to sink. Not violently, not explosively, but smoothly, like the surface of a giant drum being pressed down. Buildings gently tilted. Wells disappeared. Entire streets slowly dropped several feet within minutes. Dust rose like fog. People ran, shouting, carrying children, stumbling as the ground shifted under them. But the collapse was too widespread, too coordinated across the basin. Supporting pillars snapped. Caverns widened. The earth absorbed everything. Within less than 3 hours, Silver Plains sank into the desert, swallowed almost whole. By noon, the town was gone. Nothing remained but twisted beams, fragments of rooftops, and a shallow, jagged depression stretching nearly a mile. It was as if the desert had simply closed its mouth after devouring a meal. News spread rapidly. Newspapers across the country published sketches of the vanished city. Scientists visited, though their equipment was crude. Many blamed natural cavern collapses. Others whispered about curses or divine punishment. Wentworth denied responsibility, blaming Nathaniel for spreading panic. But those who survived, especially the ones who stood on the ridge, believed Nathaniel had saved their lives. As for Nathaniel himself, he died during the collapse, running back into the sinking town to save a trapped family. His body was never recovered. The survivors built a makeshift monument on the ridge, inscribed with his last recorded words, spoken only hours before the disaster. "Listen to the desert. It always tells the truth." For decades afterward, Silver Plains became a ghost story, a cautionary tale told in mining camps and railroad lines across the West. Some said they saw strange lights near the site. Others claimed that on hot summer days, mirages of the city appeared above the horizon. By the early 1900s, shifting sands buried most of the depression. A few explorers tried to excavate. None succeeded. The site never became a tourist attraction. It was too remote, too inaccessible. Eventually, Silver Plains faded from maps and memory. But not entirely. In 1962, an archaeological survey rediscovered fragments of the mine's collapsed beams. In 1978, geologists confirmed the existence of a vast ancient cavern system beneath the region. And in 2004, a researcher found Nathaniel's original survey notes in an old Nevada storage locker. Notes that accurately predicted the collapse decades before modern geological tools existed. Today, the story of Silver Plains is studied by historians, geologists, and storytellers alike. Some call Nathaniel a visionary. Others consider him a tragic hero. But everyone agrees on one thing. Silver Plains stands as a haunting reminder of America's relentless push westward, and the price paid when human ambition collides with the quiet, unstoppable forces of the natural world. And if you ever find yourself deep in Nevada, far from the highways, on a windless morning when the heat paints shimmering illusions in the air, you might just catch a glimpse of something impossible. A street, a rooftop, a bell tower that no longer exists, a city that appeared, thrived, and vanished, a city the desert never forgot.